Season 2 of Teen Titans has been quite good so far. I'd even call it quite the step up from Season 1, at least early Season 1, which, as you guys know, I find kind of mediocre in an otherwise great show. So far, everything that the show was mediocre at, the camera work, for example, which wasn't very good early on in Season 1, and got moderately better by the end, has been vastly improved so far this season. And now that we have firmly established that with the last couple of Season 2 episodes, it's time for Season 2 to get underway properly. This episode opens with a blonde girl running from a rad scorpion. But like all good anime, Teen Titans telegraphs right away that she's not some one-off civilian for the Titans to come and save in a throwaway action sequence. Her design is just a little too interesting for that to be the case. So when the Titans do show up to rescue her, it's no surprise that she ends up rescuing herself. It turns out she was only drawing the rad scorpion to a specific spot in this canyon, so that she could use her powers to control the Earth, to trap it and kill it. Seeing that she has powers and then learning that she doesn't have anywhere to go, the Titans invite her back to the tower to stay, at least for the time being. But as they leave with her at their side, Slade appears and claims that he saw her first. We get a few scenes of her just living in the tower, and they're all very entertaining. We get a very strong sense for her character immediately, mostly through visual storytelling, which is fantastic. And while a rapport is built between her and every member of the team very quickly, they all clearly like her. They're not like family levels with her like they are with each other, but they do like her. She builds a very clear rapport with Beast Boy, a very strong rapport with Beast Boy, who has an obvious crush on her, to the point that she even entrusts him with her secret, that she doesn't fully know how to control her powers. She's very strong. We see that after the other Titans invite her to join the team and let her practice with them on Cyborg's new superpower test course thing. But that's really the problem. Her powers are so strong and she can control literally every mechanism of the planet that they're on, that she causes damage everywhere she goes. Like, I'm jumping ahead in the episode a little bit to tell you this now, but we do find out later that she's not on the run because she doesn't have anywhere to go. She doesn't have anywhere to go because she causes natural disasters everywhere she stops. And this is such a good thing. The Titans taking her in is such a good thing that she doesn't want to jeopardize that by telling them her dark secret. So she entrusts it to Beast Boy and swears him to silence, and of course he's not going to tell anybody. He likes her too much. They of course let her on the team when they see how powerful and how nuanced her abilities can be. But that's when Slade pops up again and they respond. They go after him. And as is typical with Slade, this appearance of him isn't for whatever it appeared that it was for. I don't even remember what it was at this point. It was to draw in Terra, who he assumed would join the team. He draws her away from the others and claims that he can help her control her powers. This is when we learn about her past. He looked into it. Even though the others show up to get her out of there, she does end up leaving the Titans almost immediately after joining them, when Robin works out that she has less than adequate control of her powers, and she just assumes that Beast Boy betrayed her. Now we are left knowing that this incredibly powerful person exists, that she doesn't trust the Titans anymore, and that Slade is out there looking to recruit her for something. Presumably something similar to what he wanted to recruit Robin for back in Season 1, but we can't know that for sure. And there's at least one character who has some real emotional stakes in the relationship with this person, that being Beast Boy. This is excellent setup for the arc to come, but that's really all it is. It's setup. This feels like the first episode of the show over again. Well, in that episode, Slade was scouting Robin. Now he's scouting this character who isn't part of the main core group. And granted, we didn't know back in that episode that he was scouting Robin to be his apprentice, but looking back on it, this feels a lot weaker than that. Like, we didn't really know Robin all that well at that time, but we know him well now, so looking back, Slade trying to recruit him, one of the core members of this group, their leader, in fact. It has so much more weight than recruiting this outsider who we barely know. So it is kind of surprising, looking back at this story, that this arc, an adaptation of the Judas Contract arc from the comics, ends up being one of the best remembered of the entire series. There's a lot more that I could talk about here regarding Terra's character and how different she is from the version of Terra in the comics, but I almost don't want to do that. Let's just say that the fact that they were making this as a cartoon for kids did limit them in how accurately they could adapt to the Judas Contract arc. If you want to see a more accurate adaptation of the Judas Contract arc, I would recommend the self-titled DC animated movie that came out not too terribly long ago. I'll try to find a link to maybe an Amazon listing for it and stick it in the description or something. But for simplicity's sake, I'll just say that in the comics and in the Judas Contract animated movie, Terra is nothing like this. I'm sure I will talk about this more as Terra's arc in the show continues, but let's just say, in the comics, Terra was a monster. She was a bad person from the get-go and did some very deplorable things. She was effectively a sociopath, manipulating the Titans and playing off of their feelings. In the show, though, she's very genuine and much more sympathetic, and I honestly like that a lot better. In fact, the only real misstep in this episode, as far as I can see, is showing Slade at the very beginning. Showing him in the shadows, watching Terra, there in person. I just don't see why he would do that. It feels out of character to me. Unless he was planning to try to recruit her right there, and didn't because the Titans were there. Even though he pretty much announced his plans to recruit her immediately after that anyway, like at most like 2 days later or something. It just doesn't make sense. I would maybe have shown a figure in the shadows implying that it could have been him, or maybe one of his robots observing her instead in his place. But I wouldn't have shown him. I wouldn't have given him dialogue at that early point in the episode and let the later scenes speak for themselves. And I will admit that this episode is a little underwhelming on its own. It plays better with the rest of the episodes in this arc to follow it. But that's not to say that it's bad, it's just not as good as what's to come, and that's by necessity, so I can't really fault it for that. And I will say that at the very least, it does have me wanting to see more of this character. Even back when I first watched this episode, I wanted to see more of Terra because she was a likable character. All of that said, though, guys, as per usual, I'd like to know, what did you think of the episode Terra? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. We're over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later. I can almost do that without having to stop for a breath now, which